Thanks for listening to Westplex Talk. Find out more at westplextalk.com. Now it's back to the two guys who were described by talk show expert Jeff Allen from News Talk STL as the best talk duo he's heard since Charles Jaco and Peanuts the Squirrel. It's Brad and John.
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
Okay, John, we'll get to your discussion of what we're going to talk about again.
I saw a conservative personality do an Instagram reel about praising RFK, like, for all the wrong reasons.
Okay, we'll get to that. But first off, I do want to do this, okay? I heard this was actually, they talked about this interview on Armstrong and Getty, who comes on this very radio station in about 20 minutes from right now, okay? Are you familiar with the City Journal? Have you ever heard the City Journal?
No.
Okay, City Journal, I don't know who the City Journal is, but it's cityjournal.org. It's city-journal.org, okay? And this was an article written November 12th, and it talks about, let me just read you the first paragraph here. It says, a reckoning is underway in corporate America. After the death of George Floyd in 2020, it seemed that every Fortune 500 company had launched a diversity, equity, and inclusion program. But now, 4 years later, many companies are quietly acknowledging the failure of these initiatives and in some cases winding them down. Get this. Early this year, we reported on the DEI troubles at Boeing, which an insider described in this way. DEI is the drop you put in the bucket, and the whole bucket changes. It's an anti-excellence because it is ill-defined, but it became part of the culture. This is changing. Earlier this month, Boeing's newly installed CEO, Kelly Ortberg, quietly dismantled the DEI program and accepted the resignation of the office's vice president. To understand how this happened, we reached out to the same insider. In the following interview, edited slightly for clarity, the insider provides a glimpse into the change of heart and administration at the company headquarters. Now, they interviewed him, and first thing he says, this is interesting. This is the insider talking. We are shifting from a company whose culture is simply the average of corporate America to a distinct and deliberate vision of leadership. Kelly Ortberg wants Boeing focused on being an airplane company with our own culture and own vision. The resulting cash crunch from the strike accelerated this culture shift. When you start to focus on delivering value instead of preserving status, it becomes obvious what drives value, and it's not DEI. Ready for another paragraph?
I am. Yeah, I have it in front of me. I'm reading along with you.
Our CEO has always been fighting for efficiency, but the strike and associated cash crunch brought into focus what really drives production. Kelly is looking at every business and every process with fresh eyes, asking the basic question, does this help us build airplanes? See, once again, they're going back to basics. You know, yes. I mean, it's to the point, it's like, okay, that's the thing. And here, let me keep reading. HR organizations like to make the argument that you need the right mix of skin color and gender preference to perform and innovate. But everyone who has had to build things knows that what really drives value is integrity, hard work, and technical expertise. This doesn't mean that bias doesn't exist and that we don't need to fight it, but Kelly, gets that. The best culture directly promotes values and results, not identity groups. I mean, is this like basic knowledge 101?
It is, and it's heresy to DEI offices across. Like, think if you work for any competitor of Boeing, if you work for Lockheed Martin and your job has been based on the fact that you have a certain skin color, or you pretend you put on a dress and you claim to be a woman, imagine how you feel about a competitor saying, nope, we're going to get back to basics and we're going to win based on making airplanes.
Well, you know, there's the herd mentality, which pervades human behavior so often. And they talked about it's the George Floyd thing. All of a sudden, everything, okay, we've got to take a look at where we're at and how we view other people and blah, blah, blah. Okay. The DEI thing, I have matter of fact, I have two people that I know who essentially are very, very, very involved with DEI. One of them is actually a DEI person who goes to the employees and teaches them DEI. And we go round and round with this all the time. And I always give the example. Of, okay, the NBA. Majority of players in the NBA are black. Why is that? Because the black athletes are better. For the most part, they're better, right? Let's be honest. They're better basketball players.
Of course they are, yeah.
They're better basketball.
It's a meritocracy. Let me interrupt, because you want to use this word later, I bet. It's a meritocracy in the NBA.
Exactly. The best people get to play. And just like the example I always give that, and I'm not being anti-union when I say this. You listen to ESPN 101, and the guys are on there. If it's the Cardinal season, they're harping, "Oh, we should get rid of so-and-so. He's past his prime. He's not good anymore." But yet the players are in a players union, okay? And that guy is in a union as well, too. So if I showed up at that guy's plant and I said, "You know what, let's get rid of Jim Smith because he's not the carpenter he used to be. He's not cranking out those 2x4s the way he used to be, and his nailing's gotten a little bit bad. And, oh, my God, look at how he's using that crosscut saw. We need to get rid of him because he's past his prime." Guess what the answer would be? Well, you can't. He's in the union, right?
Yep.
Okay.
You're exactly right, Brad.
Okay, so the point being is, shouldn't everything be a meritocracy? Shouldn't when we're looking at the best of the best of the best who are going to be in the NBA, the NFL, the MLB, the soccer dudes, even to the point where, remember, this came out. There was a big argument about this with women in tennis because of the fact that they talked about. I think it was Serena Williams was interviewed, and do you remember this crazy thing with who's the bad boy of tennis? What was his name? John McEnroe, was he?
Yeah, John McEnroe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you ever see this interview where he's on TV and he talks about how women are very bad at tennis? And the interviewer, "Well, John, we'll give you a chance to retract that statement." Do you ever see that one? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah, I saw it.
And he says, "No, that's the truth." And then they asked Serena Williams, and she came out and said, the men's game is totally different from the women's game. And she admitted that she could probably be wiped up by the 150th ranked male player in the country. He could probably take her 3 sets. What if you win 3 sets in a row? Isn't that tennis? Was it 2 sets in a row?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
3 sets. In other words, if you win 3 in a row, boom, match is over. Okay? So once again, there are differences. Now, the crazy thing about this is if you know the crazy thing with the San Jose State volleyball team, you know this crazy thing?
No, what happened there?
The San Jose volleyball team, that's been the news a lot lately because of the fact that Armstrong and Getty talk about this because their show originates out of Sacramento, and Sacramento is very close.
Sorry to interrupt, did they refuse to play?
A bunch of the teams have refused to play.
Yes.
Because they have a dude or a dudette or whatever you want to call him on the team, and he's already broken all these records, he or she, whatever. It gets so weird.
Whatever you want to call it.
Can I be honest with you? When someone says to me, and I'm glad I'm not the first person that said this because I had someone else said, they said, he's a transgender person. And I say, okay, so that means he used to be a dude, but now he's a dudette? No, he used to be a dudette, now he's a dude. Okay, let me think about that for a minute.
Whatever.
You try to get it.
The point is, San Jose State, so they have a guy on their team that plays against women, and some teams are refusing to play against them, right?
Most of the teams refuse to play against them.
Yeah.
And to the point where it's
a safety issue.
Well, yeah, one gal got whacked in the face by him, and she's still has a concussion or something like that. I mean, not he didn't hit her, but he hit her with a ball and stuff like that. Let's be honest when we say that if you go to the golf course, and trust me, there are some excellent women golfers out there, but if you put the number one woman golfer against the number who's the big guy right now in
Jordan something, not Jordan Sparks, Jordan somebody else.
Right. Guess what? She's not going to hold a candle to him. I mean, it's just not going to happen. I mean, that's just the way it is. And
let's get back to DEI for a second, Brad, because you asked a question, shouldn't it be a meritocracy? And of course, me and you and free market folks that we know would say yes. But Brad, if you went today you went down to the WashU Executive Business School and you went into either the undergrad business school or you went into the MBA classes, they would teach you that businesses have an obligation to encourage and advocate for social change. And that's part of the ESG stuff. So if you have been taught, Brad, if you're out of school for a while and you're 30 and you have your executive MBA from WashU, you were taught in business school, no, you don't just look at the bottom line. You look at the cultural impact, the environmental impact of the company's work, and that's the success of the company. The success of the company is not the bottom line. It's the greater good, and it's the good you have on your employees and whatever. And, the fiscal stuff comes later, Brad. Now, you and I don't agree with that. But you know what? If you're a 30-year-old business leader, that has been drilled into your head, Brad.
But what's interesting is the reckoning of Boeing is they're in a problem. They're in a bad way. They had a big strike.
Yep.
They've had all these problems with planes. They're negative publicity. They've had a problem with their spacecraft, the Starliner, which, had a problem and had to fly back without the astronauts. The astronauts are stranded up there. They are in a world of hurt, okay? The new CEO essentially saying, guys, we got to put the blindfolds, or we got to put the blinders on, the horse blinders on. We got to look straight ahead. And what's straight ahead? We got to build airplanes. We got to be the best in the world at building airplanes. I don't care if you're 40 years old or 400 years old. I don't care if you're black, white, green, whatever. If you can build an airplane and do it great, we got to move forward, because here we go back to the point I made last week. Let's take it like the corporate view of Maslow's theory of hierarchy, which you just said, the new 30-year-old MBA. Okay, if he's going to say, well, we've got to have all these diversity and stuff like that. If the company is losing money and it's headed toward bankruptcy, it doesn't make any difference anymore. You know what I'm saying?
And there are no jobs. And Brad, you've made the parallel many times. If you raise the minimum wage to $15 or $20 and you say, oh, this is great for workers. Yeah, what about the workers that lose their jobs because of it?
Well, but not only that, the situation is already you've got the price. And once again, I'm not dissing the guys out there making the Chevy vans and the Chevy pickup trucks in Wentzville. But when you got that nice big raise, guess what happens? General Motors has to raise the price of cars, and they raise the price of cars, and the affordability of a car now is out of the reach of a lot of people nowadays.
Which brings demand down, which affects everybody.
But the interesting part of that is, here's the interesting part of that. The car manufacturers right now, for the most part, are sitting in a sweet spot because of the fact that since they've scaled back their production, they're not flooding the market with cars and then having to offer special financing, discounts and stuff like that.
You're exactly right.
They are charging sticker, and in some cases sticker plus, because they can do that. I told you the story. I went to a Ford dealership, look at the Ford Maverick, and the guy says, "Hey, I don't have any." And I said, "Say right here on the Ford website, they started at 23." Nope, that's not true. Cheapest one we've got 26,000. And I go well, it says right here in the Ford. No, there's no such thing as that. And then he tells me
they should be able to charge what the market will bear.
But he said that, and that's the exact point. He says there's no dickering on the sticker. The sticker is the sticker. You want that? Don't want to pay that price? Guess what? There's somebody else who'll pay that price. And that's how the market's turned around. Now, the interesting part of that is that there will come a point when, as the pendulum swings, like I always talk about, where people will say, "Oh, I just can't afford a car anymore," and a lot of people will say, "I'm just going to patch up my old one. I used to trade in every 2 or 3 or 4 years." Now,
is good for. Sorry to interrupt, but this is good for the O'Reillys of the world. It's good for the AutoZones of the world.
Exactly, and the car, the maintenance places, the complete auto body and repair, those kind of places, because people are holding on to their cars longer. They're out of warranty. They don't take them to the dealerships. They take them to the local repair shop. So, in other words, there's another sector that benefits from it. And this is the dynamic aspect, and you follow this all the time when you follow all these financial markets. There's nothing happens in the dark. There's not like if the tree
You're
falls.
Exactly right. And Brad, to that point, I'm long O'Reilly, for full disclosure, ticker symbol ORLY, because we're going to continue to see those companies doing well as people cannot afford new cars.
Well,
and also, Brad, think about this. Think of the number of people when Boeing comes out with a position like this. Think of the number of people who now intensely want Boeing to fail, even within the company. Think of the number of people that are like, I hope this is a complete disaster because DEI is important and these people are gonna learn, because it threatens everything they've been told. It threatens their whole worldview, that, Brad. They want Boeing to fail. And also think of the media coverage as this goes on that it's going to get. If you're the comms director globally for Boeing, you're sitting in these meetings and you're like, guys, I know that you think this is the right business policy, but we're going to get killed on social about this. We're going to get killed in the media on this. We need more money to do our jobs now because we're going to get killed on this.
Man, I don't know. There's so many things going on in the world nowadays that I just sort of shake my head and go like, man, being 89, not too many years left for me. I don't have to worry about this too much longer. The younger folks like John will hopefully, take the flag and keep moving forward. I don't know. I mean, there's so many frustrating things. Like, for example, I'm hearing all this pushback. People going like, oh my God, look what Trump's going to do. Matter of fact, over the weekend, they were making fun of Vivek Ramaswamy, okay? He actually said this. They were making fun of this on NPR, on the Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me show. You know what one of his suggestions was? Cutting the federal workforce?
Yeah, I did see something about that.
Do you know what he said, which is sort of interesting?
Well, he said just delete it.
No, he said, here's how you cut the federal workforce in half. And you do it with no preference to anybody. So in other words, nobody's saying, well, how come he got fired and I didn't? You know, that kind of thing. Okay. What you do is you say one day the federal government comes up with a mandate and they say, okay, everybody look at your Social Security number. If your Social Security number ends in an even number, you keep your job. If it ends in an odd number, you're fired.
Well, that's fair. I like that.
I'm going like, whoa. But how many times, you know, I mean, like to the point where on state government, like we saw this thing, you talked about this last week, you know, I brought it up and you followed up the next day, the driver's license thing. Okay. You know, let's say in a perfect world that was Home Depot, and Home Depot had a problem where all of a sudden everybody showed up at the store to buy things, and the lines to check out went back into the store, and people were like lined up 20 and 30 deep to check out. Don't you think that probably within a couple of hours, there'd be a Home Depot executive here like a regional manager in the St. Louis area who would be on the horn with the people down in Atlanta, and they would have this figured out within 24 hours?
Yes, because they have a profit motive and they have an efficiency motive.
Right, and somehow or another they would bring in, you know, they would cross train, even though the guy works in the lumber department, they would cross train him to run the cashier's station, okay? And all the different employees, I mean, you know, I've had family members of mine who worked retail, and they talked about being cross trained. The fact that you know their main job was this, but when something happened, they were called in to do this, and this. My youngest son, I don't want to get him in trouble in this. My youngest son, to give you an example of the work ethic and our lack thereof, you know, I should call him and talk. I don't know if it's fair for me.
Yeah, I
say.
think we have 2 minutes left, but go ahead.
Well, my youngest son, we worked at Sam's Club, and he told me the story about how he refused forklift training. You have to be a certified forklift operator. I go, why would you do that? And he says, because they're always wanting somebody to run the forklift. He says, I don't want to be that guy that has to work all the time. And I'm going like,
good point.
I can't believe my son said that. My son said
the work ethic skipped the generation.
And I said to him, but you become a more valuable employee by being forklift operator certified, don't you? He says, yeah, but that's not my goal in life.
Boy, I tell you what, he would have never made it as a curb boy at Steak and Shake. Brad, if the new St. Louis Public Radio role doesn't work out for you, you should lead DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency for the state of Missouri. You could be like Missouri's Elon Musk, and you could go in and you could fix the DMV. You could make everybody have concierge service. You could do it with a smile, and you would make sure they were all cross-trained.
Okay, here's the Jason Rosenbaum thing. Morning, I said 7:41 morning. Could you come on the air with John and myself and discuss your union status? He says, I appreciate the offer, but I'm getting my kids to school, daycare right now. I said, anytime in the future.
That's great. Good for Jason.
Question mark. And he says, possibly, let me think about it, and I'll get back to you, which means he won't do it.
Listen, Jason, first of all, Jason is not the union leader. Like, let's be clear. He was involved early on. Jason is not the leader of the guild. And I don't think the union wants somebody speaking for them, Brad, who's not in a place to speak on their behalf. I don't think that doesn't have to do with us. That has to do with the fact that Jason's not the guy.
I still want someone from Ameren to come on the air and explain to me how they can charge you an extra $10 a month more and you get solar power instead of regular power. How is that possible? And the answer to that question is it's not. It's all smoke and mirrors. Pardon the pun. Okay, say goodbye, John.
See you guys tomorrow.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?